In a quiet village nestled between rolling green hills, there lived a man named Ethan. He was known as a hard worker, spending most of his days running a small shop in the heart of the village. Ethan was diligent, reliable, and respected, but deep down, he was unhappy. Every day felt the same. He would wake up early, unlock his shop, serve customers, and close at sunset. While others in the village seemed content with their lives, Ethan felt trapped, as though he were living on a never-ending treadmill. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, Ethan sat on a bench outside his shop. The setting sun bathed the village square in golden light, but he barely noticed. His mind was clouded with thoughts of dissatisfaction. Why does life feel so dull? Why does everyone else seem happier than me? As he sat there, he noticed an elderly man walking through the square. The man, dressed in simple clothes and carrying a cane, moved slowly but with an unmistakable air of peace. Ethan had seen him before, a traveler who occasionally passed through the village, staying for only a few days before moving on. Curiosity got the better of Ethan. As the man approached, Ethan called out, "Excuse me, sir. You always seem so calm and content. How do you do it? What's your secret?" The old man smiled kindly and walked over to the bench. "May I sit?" he asked. Ethan nodded, and the man eased himself onto the bench beside him. "There's no secret," the man said. "It's all about perspective." Ethan frowned. "Perspective? What do you mean?" The old man adjusted his cane and began to speak. "The tale of the two travelers. Let me tell you a story," the old man said. Once there were two travelers crossing a vast desert. They were both tired, thirsty, and desperate for water. After days of wandering, they stumbled upon a half-empty bottle of water lying in the sand. The first traveler picked up the bottle, looked at it, and said, "This is all? Only half a bottle? It's not enough to get us through the desert. We're doomed." The second traveler, however, smiled and said, "Half a bottle of water. This will keep us going for a while longer. Let's drink and keep moving." Both drank from the bottle, but their perspectives shaped their actions. The first traveler, consumed by fear and doubt, gave up and stayed behind. The second traveler, fueled by gratitude and hope, kept moving. Eventually, he found an oasis and saved himself, and others who followed. The old man paused, letting the story sink in. Ethan stared at the horizon, where the golden glow of the setting sun met the rolling hills. "So," the old man continued, "life is like that bottle of water. You can choose to focus on what's missing, or you can appreciate what you have. Changing your perspective doesn't change your circumstances, but it changes how you experience them." Ethan's shift that night. Ethan lay awake, thinking about the story. He realized he had been living like the first traveler, focusing only on what he lacked: excitement, recognition, and a sense of purpose. He had been so consumed by dissatisfaction that he had failed to see the blessings all around him: a steady livelihood, loyal customers, and the simple beauty of his village. The next morning, Ethan decided to make a change, not by abandoning his responsibilities, but by shifting his perspective. When he opened his shop that day, he greeted each customer with genuine warmth, seeing them not as tasks to complete but as people with stories. He began to notice small joys he had overlooked for years: the comforting aroma of fresh bread from the bakery next door, the laughter of children playing in the square, and the vibrant flowers sold by a nearby vendor. He also started exploring his interests outside of work. In the evenings, he picked up a sketchbook and began drawing the landscapes around him. Slowly but surely, his life began to feel less monotonous and more meaningful. The ripple effect. Months later, the traveler returned to the village. Ethan, now brimming with a newfound energy, greeted him warmly. "You were right," Ethan said. "Changing my perspective didn't change my life overnight, but it changed how I live it." I've started to see beauty where I used to see boredom. I've found purpose in the small things." The old man smiled. "And that," he said, "is the secret to a fulfilled life. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change." From that day forward, Ethan carried the traveler's lesson with him. Whenever life felt difficult or monotonous, he reminded himself to shift his perspective. And as he shared this wisdom with others in the village, the people around him began to change, too. They stopped complaining about the rain and started appreciating how it nourished the land. They stopped focusing on what they didn't have and began cherishing the simple joys of their lives. Closing thought: Ethan's story teaches us a powerful lesson. Life is often shaped not by our circumstances, but by how we choose to see them. So, the next time you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or unhappy, ask yourself, are you focusing on what's missing, or are you grateful for what's there? Remember, the bottle of water is half full, it's up to you to see it that way. Change your perspective, and you might just change your life.